welcome to the 5th VacationIRL podcast. I am joined today with Drew
Yellow.
and Cole.
Hola.
Two brothers, two peas in a pod, two fellows in the meadow.
Snow peas are pretty good.
Snow peas are pretty good.
You should do poetry.
You think so?
Yeah.
Do some slam poetry on the podcast.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, everyone, it's been another eccentric week in 2021. Already, this year has surpassed my expectations for where I thought we would go. I knew it was going to be crazy. I expected it to be worse than 2020 because everything always gets worse, am I right? But no, it's been exceptionally crazy. This started off to kind of get your attention. We got the Nevada governor wanting to allow corporations to move out into the desert and set up their own governmental bodies.
What?
What does that even mean?
It's a night city in real life. CyberPunk, baby.
Cyberpunk in real life. I mean, we're talking Google, Amazon. I mean, like Amazontopia, Google Land. You know, all the cool stuff.
Rep your gang.
Rapper game.
Live for Amazon.
Like for Amazon. You know, you got to get out there. You got to don the jersey. But yeah, no, and it's nothing that's been passed in the bill yet. It's hard to say. I doubt this would actually even get passed by the legislature. I would hope the Nevada legislature wouldn't allow something like this to pass. But basically, what the governor is presenting is a bill that would allow these corporations to move out into the desert and basically build their own infrastructure, their own everything, and then that would allow them to establish their own tax laws, manage the education, manage the roadways, all that stuff. It would allow them to do basically whatever they want out there. I mean, I'm sure they'd still have to follow American constitutional laws or whatever, but yeah, he wants to allow private investment of this sort of stuff.
Does that mean any, employee in any of those big corporations, are they technically government officials now?
I mean, they would have governmental loyalty. I mean, what does that even mean though? Like, would they be acting as like a county jurisdiction? They wouldn't be separate from the United States. They're not going to allow an autonomous zone to exist. They've already demonstrated that they'll just come in and firebomb the place.
It's like, it's a good idea to get corporations to invest money into our community and everything, but I do not like the idea of Burger King opening a school.
No.
Because
No,
what would they
never.
be teaching if
The
they
school
could
of
just
pickles.
pick
Why they're the king.
the subject matter? I don't know.
How to get the perfect grill lines on your burger.
Wendy's be talking about why it's got to be square. They would all know.
Get your bachelor's in burgers.
Bachelors and burger flipping. But
Who
no,
knows?
it's important. Private investment is a good thing, you know, invigorating the private market to take things. I think it's a good thing for that people would be taking responsibility for themselves and their own actions. But in this case, what they're asking for is multinational corporations to come in and set the whole thing up. And these corporations, they don't have any national loyalties. They don't care about you or I. Their only their incentive is to make money. Which in terms of competition, that's what they're supposed to be doing, but they've been subsidized and they're not regulated at all by the government. They store all their money overseas, don't really pay taxes.
Their goal is most money as possible.
As most money as possible. And they're doing a fantastic job of that. Especially with Jeff Bezos. I mean, honestly, I still don't know how Elon Musk made it to #1. Is Tesla even sorry to change the subject, but how is Tesla making money?
I don't know, they made a huge, impact and, they made a lot of waves during this whole pandemic.
They did. Is it all just a investment though? In loans or?
I don't know.
Didn't they launch SpaceX, didn't they?
They did, yeah. I know they're making a little money. I don't think it's in the green yet, but I don't know. Because #1, he's almost at $1 trillion.
Yeah.
Like, how do you just skyrocket to that? Is it all just an asset?
Yeah, I gotta assume everything's assets.
It's just what he's valued at.
Yeah.
probably.
And the company is added to that his asset, wouldn't it?
Mm-hmm. The company would be an asset of it. I know he's got a
So,
bunch of other stuff he's
Just
working on.
that
But
CEO title.
I don't
gives you
think
the-
he's just sitting on Scrooge McDuck style vault of money.
No, I believe he was working on those underground tunnel machines in like LA or something like that.
For real.
Did you guys see anything about those? There's these.
Yeah, like he wanted to build tunnels through LA.
Because his idea is instead of having like roads and cities, you basically go till you could drive up to the city, and there'll be like underground parking garages, and you park your car. Then in the city there'd just be like metros and like bicycles and things like that. So then the cities you could, but then there'd be highways going under or like over the cities, so that you can just like pass through it without actually.
Efficient transportation, efficient walking.
It makes sense. I mean, when you look at the city jams in the cities, it's kind of like.
I mean,
It's
it probably,
nightmarish.
yeah, it probably turned down a lot of accidents and all that.
I don't have any experience driving in cities, but I know you've told me about like driving in Chicago. and
Awful.
Even
Chicago.
Detroit, it can get pretty crazy in Detroit.
Yeah, Detroit can get awful, dude. People just they lose it. They just stop caring about they just got to get to where they got to go. And I get it. They're dealing with it every day, but it's awful.
It's those newcomers are gonna change your path or change like the.
Yeah, me actually using my blinker to like turn and driving the speed limit and not brake checking people every 5 minutes. No. You got to be kind of crazy driving like that though.
You do. Like down there, it's just go or get hit.
I know in Peru, the people driving around, they didn't use like road signs or anything like that at all. It was literally just there were 2 lanes of movement, and it was like you could dip and dive your way through that however you had to get through it. And you'd be like in these taxis, and they're just weaving in and out of all these cars. There's bikes splitting the lanes all over the place. The intersections were a nightmare. It was literally just like brake stop, brake go, brake go, brake go, letting one person go, then another person go.
What was the most popular car you saw in Peru?
What did they have? I feel like I saw a lot of Toyotas. Japanese cars, because it's definitely, I imagine, since it's right on the west coast of South America, I imagine they get a lot of shipment from over there. But what else did they have? I feel like I saw Hondas.
Honda.
I believe
A
so.
lot of foreign.
A lot of foreign. I mean, obviously it's.
It's a
Peru.
foreign.
It was different. A lot of square bodies. The buses were really odd, and there were a lot of like 3-wheeled vehicles.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, like almost weird
The
cart.
tuk
Yeah.
type vehicle.
Yeah, and then you would see the people like with like the bicycle carts too. There was a lot of that as well still. Very cool though. But anyway, back to the subject of the cities. Like imagine living in a city. You don't really have a whole lot of walking space. Like here we can go out, we can walk on the road pretty much like if we want to. We can walk around, but if you're like in a busy part of the city, you have like the sidewalk, the stores, and maybe like the one park you've got in like the vicinity to go to. So you don't really have a whole lot of free range movement.
No, it's
that's-
shoulder to shoulder the whole way. You're crowded. Obviously, well, not right now, but in the future, I think it really would be a good move.
It's gonna make people crazy. Like it used to be, the roads were like the place for people to walk on, and there were horses and stuff. Like when the cities first started getting really big, I know they used a lot of those transit cart things. What were they? The like electric
Trolleys.
trolleys, yeah. And they'd ride in the middle of the lane. I guess they were kind of dangerous.
Yeah, well,
Because
I'm pretty sure
a
San
lot of them
Francisco
had-
still has a lot.
Yeah.
You want to say that again?
San Francisco.
They have
Do they still use them?
monorails. Yeah.
Oh, that's kind of cool. The monorail stuff's really cool.
Yeah.
But in the old like trolleys and monorails, they had open circuits on their rails, so they would electrocute people.
Probably if you stepped on it or
Yeah.
something.
So
Monorails are sweet though. I remember we rode one in Epcot Center when we went for
Oh yeah.
the band.
And
The-
Disney's got some really
yeah.
crazy ones.
It was like seeing Walt Disney's Vision of the Future. That was crazy.
Oh, you know, he's frozen his head. He's waiting to see it. What do you think we got? Do you want to get into some futurism? What do you guys think the next 50 years will bring about? What's going to be the big thing?
I think the biggest thing is going to be life expectancy.
Life
I still
expectancy?
do. I'm still on life expectancy.
What's your prediction? How old do you think you're going to make it till? If, like, you don't get,
Like,
hit by a car
yeah,
or,
yeah.
you know, fucking
I
thrown
want
off
to
a cliff or something crazy.
say 150 to 180.
150 to 180?
Yes.
What do you think, Cole?
I don't know.
Here's a better question. How old would you want to live to? If given the choice, what age is the time that you'd be like, all right, now I'm done? Do you think, if you could guess?
I don't know, cause like
life brings like new experiences every day.
It does.
Yeah.
So it's like your like view of that could change, like just from a bad day. You could be like, obviously, like, oh, this sucks. Like, why would I want to live here for like 150 years or so, per se?
Right,
Whatever.
especially if it's like a really bad situation. It depends if you could keep doing new things. Like I know, like I've got enough books. There's enough books that exist to, you could spend 50 years
Oh,
just
yeah.
reading books. So
Live
like,
in a library for 10 years, bro.
go be the man on the mountain.
Yeah.
I don't know.
A big thing would be memory.
Yes,
Yes.
it's
Okay.
pretty much like I'll go as long as I'm like functioning.
If my body, if my mind starts going, and I'd prefer like maybe like a mind wipe, almost like a second birth,
Yeah.
where you erase a lot of like.
I mean, our mind, don't they naturally erase? Well, yeah, we naturally erase memory, but
All the time. Mhm.
yeah, not at a rate though that you could probably.
Well, eventually it still adds up, and I imagine by the time you're, because I think we have like 100 years worth our minds can store, and after that it just starts letting it go. So maybe if we just kept going, it would just pick and choose what it needs and doesn't, and just get rid
Yeah.
of certain ones. Like
Probably
eventually,
the most or essential things that you.
well, like imagine like just forgetting like where you were born and shit like that, because it's not necessary anymore.
Yeah. You have new means of survival.
But after that point, you probably wouldn't care so much.
And that's where I also like worry about the deterioration of the mind, because like, what if your mind deems like bladder control an unnecessary thing to remember? Like, so it's
Well, I mean, at that point, what if they just can change your bladder out with like a plastic set of tubes and
I mean,
something cool like that?
yeah.
Do you even need the main
Terminator-like.
biological function at that point? Is that necessary to the...
Well, I mean, that's why like you got adult diapers and stuff like that. It's
People lose their bowels.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's I mean, and that's like not even the body forgetting how to do it. A lot of the times that's just the body
Getting
failing to
old.
function.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's, I don't know. I guess that goes back to the point of, I would live as long as I would want to live as long as my body functions, or not even just my body, but like my brain and body.
Live forever or die trying.
Exactly.
That's the way to go. Alright. I'm going to lead us into the next subject here. We're going to take it to the military actions going on around the world. These are going to be big things that are going to influence what we're going to have to deal with in the next 50 years. Are we going to focus on cool things as a species, or are we just going to focus on killing each other? It looks like we're just going to kill each other. So recently, U.S. destroyers were seen moving through the Taiwan Strait, which is to reestablish authority over the area, to reestablish international law, or international oceanic law, whatever that happens to be, just international, free passage or whatever. Because China's been making a lot of big moves on Taiwan, moving aircraft carriers into the region, moving a bunch of manpower into the region, and doing a bunch of like mock invasions of Taiwan.
For all those who don't know, China wants Taiwan. It's wanted Taiwan.
They consider Taiwan a part of themselves, but Taiwan considers themselves independent. They have their own sort of semi-constitutional system, and they have their own form of like government and like elected officials.
And they're backed by the United States.
Backed by the United States. Oh yeah, it's kind of sad. It's an island off the coast of China. They've been having conflicts for a long time, but now with the switch of administrations, because Trump was pretty tough on China. Biden, it looks like, is still going to be somewhat tough on China. I know he wants to improve relations, which to some degree isn't a bad thing. We shouldn't be giving them anything, for sure, because they are literally committing genocide as we speak.
Yes,
So-
it needs to be a mutual like agreement on how we can
Right.
like improve things around this world. Because obviously, China's and the United States are the top two.
Top dogs.
With Russia, like Russia's up there, but
They're still a shadow of their
yes.
former selves. I mean,
Yes.
they're just vibing.
Yeah.
I mean, Putin's taking control of the whole thing. He's jailing his people going up against him.
minor world power.
Minor. Wow. Careful, he'll send the KGB after you. And yeah, another thing I wanted to talk about was Biden halting the pulling out of American troops from Germany. Did you guys know we have like 36,000 American troops permanently stationed in Germany.
I did not know.
I did not know either.
We have a couple American bases there that are basically like miniature cities. There's one called like Ramstein and shit. They've got like their own like shopping centers, subdivisions. They're huge.
All just U.S. personnel.
U.S. personnel, U.S. military. They do a lot of training over there. But yeah, Trump had ordered to pull out like 9,000 of them or something like that. 9,000, it might have been 15,000. 9,000, 15,000 troops from the region, just to like cut down on costs and whatnot, because it's expensive to keep 36,000 American soldiers active like that in another country. But no, overall, it's definitely a good thing to be pulling American troops out like that, I'd say, because we spend so much of our military budget on these overseas bases that it basically cripples us in the long run. I'd imagine, at least. I imagine there's a lot of geostrategical thought processes behind a lot of these bases of operations, but we've got bases surrounding Russia, we've got bases surrounding China, we've got bases all over the goddamn place.
Naval bases all over the ocean.
Naval bases all over the ocean are, in my opinion, I think we're a little spread out, because we don't really have that many active military personnel, especially compared to countries like China and whatnot. They have like 1.2 million. We have like not even 500,000 active personnel or something like that.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure India has like 3 million or so.
India's got some crazy numbers now too. Yeah, those numbers are almost hard to even imagine for a country.
Oh yeah.
But no, keeping it with Germany for a second, there was another interesting story I saw. There's a 95-year-old elderly secretary. She was a former secretary of an SS commandant of Stutthof, and she's being charged with 10,000 counts of accessory to murder. And they're arguing that she was a part of the apparatus that helped the Nazi concentration camps function. It's kind of... It was more of an interesting story. I guess she was under 21 at the time. All she did was operate as a secretary. The SS are notoriously ruthless, though. They didn't really have much of humanity to them.
The Einsatzgruppen or something.
The Einsatzgruppen?
Something around that. It was like a designated death SS Nazi squad.
Oh, yeah, like a special one.
I think they had the most like actual murders.
Well, yeah, 'cause they'd go like town to town and just shoot people up and shit. Especially in like France.
Yeah.
They didn't give a shit. It's like they'd hunt Jews down in like Poland. Yeah, it's no bueno.
Very bad pictures out there of like trenches that they built just for bodies. It's crazy.
Yeah, the mass graves and shit. Yeah, no, dude. The Eastern Front was brutal.
Yeah.
Brutal as shit. I couldn't even imagine. That would have been hell on earth if that could even be described.
But now does this old woman, did she serve her time already?
No, they're still deciding what to do to her. I guess they're going through with it, not regarding that she's 95. I mean, it's saying that she was under 21 at the time. Now imagine being like 18 years old and you live in Nazi Germany. Everyone's getting messed up and you have the option to be a secretary. Now it depends if she knew whether people were being like killed at the camps or if it was just kind of like
A lot of it was forced too, like the Hitler Youth and all that.
Well, you gotta think they're being brainwashed and shit, and they think the whole world's up against them. You know, it's like they don't have much of a choice in their head to do anything else. They'll get shot. They've got secret police. They don't care. They'll throw you in the concentration camp. I doubt they would label their own citizens as Jewish or whatever just because.
Like I said, kids are very adaptive to their environment around them.
They are. People are very moldable, and it's very easy to make someone think something is good that is bad, or make them think that something bad is good just by changing the language around it.
Yep.
We see a lot of that nowadays, honestly. But I'm gonna jump into some local news near the end of the show. So the Michigan legislature has voted to withhold coronavirus aid to the education system in Michigan unless Whitmer gives up some of her authoritative power. Now, it's definitely a political play.
It is. But I think it's agreeable. I think she has shown a little too much power. I mean, for obviously good intentions, but
She's blatantly violated constitutional rights.
Yes.
That's a lot of states have in this whole thing, and then it really comes like we have a First Amendment, we have a right to gather, we have a right to speech. I mean, like there's certain policies like the masks you could argue for in certain situations, even though there's legitimate doctors arguing against the use of masks, and now they're saying you need multiple masks for it to even be effective. So it's almost redundant. More so, at least my whole opinion on the whole thing is the government should be there to incentivize us one way or another. They should be there to educate us too in the problem. Like if the population isn't smart enough to react to a situation like this, it's the fault of the government for not having the educational systems in place to make us educated. But I think that's by design.
Oh, for sure. And I had someone come up and tell me, like, a mask story or so. He says his wife is a nurse, and this is like the first time in her career she's told someone, or that she's been told to wear a mask for someone else.
That's the thing. There's bad diseases that have existed for a long time. Even influenza was relatively bad. Every now and then there'd be season. There was the what was the one? The swine flu that came through not too long, few years ago. I remember being in school for that one, but that was a pretty bad one, and they didn't really. It wasn't too publicized like it is now.
Yeah.
Now it's just a blatant power grab, in my opinion.
No, it is. And I don't know. A lot of their policies, when you really think about it, don't make a whole lot of sense.
They don't. They're all just quick emotional reactions because they're not thinking, oh, what's actually going to be the best thing for my people? They're thinking, oh, what's going to get me reelected in 8 years?
Yep.
And the safe bet for these governors was to just put in the most extreme lockdowns so that no matter what happened, they can say, I did everything I could. I did everything I could to help the people, even though they're destroying local businesses, mental illness is on the rise, sex trafficking is way up on the rise. Like, how easy do you think it is to identify children who've been kidnapped now?
Yes. It draws out. It definitely, the lockdowns drew out the like bad people, like the bad apples per se. But the thing is, they're bad apples for a reason. They're gonna find ways around it.
They are always, yeah. They're gonna utilize it to their advantage. Like, I'm sure the drugs are way up.
Oh yeah.
Because no one's working. Everyone's gonna be drinking. This isn't gonna be a good thing. The cure is gonna be worse than the disease at this rate. That's how I see things going. Especially now, she was talking about implementing an old policy that would give tax benefits or tax cuts to like big corporations that want to come in. So like incentivize like Amazon or like a Tesla company, for example, to come in, set up a huge manufacturing plant, and they shorten the taxes on them. Now, I think generally that in some regards that'd be a good idea, but I think it's wrong in the situation we see now because they've literally put through a bunch of policies without going through the legislative branch. That's the biggest problem people have with her, is that she didn't consult the legislative body for any of these executive orders. She just came in and was like, this needs to be done now. Now she's refusing to work with them, saying that she needs the power so she can act swiftly and decisively. The government that we have, the Constitution isn't supposed to let the government act swiftly and decisively. That's what authoritative governments do. It's supposed to be a slow process so things can be debated and arguments can be had and discussions can be had around the procedures. But no, she just went around that, and then they tried shutting her down a few times, and she pulled up some old bullshit, giving the health representative or something of the state the power to do it. So
we could literally go into a lockdown tomorrow if they really wanted.
Yeah, the live stream she had before February, like a week ago now, people were asking her like, hey, because we just opened up here in Michigan February 1st, so bars and restaurants can have 25% capacity. So one of the reporters at this like interview that she gave asked her like, hey, do you imagine that there will be future lockdowns? And she's like, oh, well, I don't know. Well, we're going to keep an eye on the numbers, and we'll do what we have to. We'll do what we have to. So that means there's no guarantee that these businesses are going to stay open. I don't think that the government should have the power to institute lockdowns like this. I don't think they do. I think they should be able to like recommend things. Oh, like, hey, as a population, we recommend you wear masks. We recommend you social distance. Then maybe have like votes on whether schools should stay open or whatnot. But they didn't do any of that. They just fear-mongered. They tried scaring people as much as they could. Even though, when you looked at the disease when it first came in, it probably came in months before they even told people. People were getting sick before people even knew it was a real thing.
It definitely, and it should not be at the state level. Maybe a national level or even a local level.
At the local level, like, what was this thing doing? It was going to do, like, this bill the House GOP was pushing through. instead of having the state health authorities dictate these policies, it would go down to the counties. So the individual counties can decide to have these mandates or not. And I think that's much more effective because not all counties are going to be affected the same way.
Yeah.
Detroit is going to be a little different than the far rural areas of like northern Michigan who aren't around anybody in the first place.
Well, and even on the national scale too, like there's a lot of states right now with like no cases at all, just about. Maybe a few, but like a lot of the like less populated states like Rhode Island, like Maine, I think.
Look at like
Maybe.
South Dakota. They didn't lock down this entire time, and their numbers are relatively low. Yet the states with the most restrictive lockdowns have the highest numbers.
There's not a.
It's also like a population density thing.
Mm-hmm.
Because like a lot of the states where they have these strict lockdown rules and they are seeing a lot of cases, it's where they have huge cities like New York, LA, and like these places where people are just confined. So
We've got cities like that in Florida. South Dakota, not so much. They've got a couple decent sized cities, and they did have numbers, but it wasn't like drastically different. It wasn't like, oh, South Dakota got hit hard. It's like the people are literally throwing parades for their state governor because of how happy they are with her, because they didn't lose any local businesses. Their unemployment rate did not change at all during this entire time. And when we look at the other states, we're looking at like 25% unemployment.
Yeah.
Like, that's insane. People are making more money on unemployment than they are just going to work. And why would anyone want to go back to work and make less money?
Exactly. And like we were talking about crime being high too.
Yeah, that's
I
good.
bet you South Dakota's not having anything.
Probably not, no, because people are happy and working and making money, and they got low taxes there. There's a couple other states like that. And then we have states like New York, where their governor was putting COVID patients in nursing homes for no reason. That literally happened. He caused the death of like 15,000 elderly people. Because it was the World Health Organization had like recommended, like, okay, if your hospital beds are way overwhelmed, then you can last case scenario put people in like nursing homes just so they have like a medical bed to be on. But Cuomo, without the hospitals in New York were never overwhelmed. That never actually came to fruition. So instead of waiting for that to come to fruition, he acted beforehand and decided just put them in the nursing homes. So he put a bunch of these COVID patients in nursing homes, and it just killed them all.
Now, would it be a bad idea for, instead of Gretchen Whitmer just making a decision for everyone, what if each state had a vote?
Like a popular vote?
A popular vote to
Well,
which
there should
decision?
be a referendum.
Yes.
Yeah, definitely. I think the public needs to be taken
We
into
the people.
consideration more.
We the people. We don't have a voice right now.
Now, we don't need. I don't necessarily agree with like direct democracy, because you can have the what is it called, the oppression of the majority.
Yeah.
Essentially, like the 51% controlling the 49%. But in situations like this, when we're talking about
Well, it could
locking
be the people with the legislation.
Well, we did vote. As a state, we voted for Whitmer. And now we're paying the consequences because she's shown her true colors. She's just a statist. She's a corporatist. She's taken corporate money. And, the other guy running up against her wasn't really great either. This puts huge importance on local elections, and that people, like, do you know who your state representatives are? Do you know who the state legislatives are? Do you know who to send an email to if you have an opinion on some of these things? Most people don't. Most people don't care. And that's why it's all messed up, because only 10 to 15% of the people actually vote these people in power, and they have a huge impact on all of our lives. Most people don't care, but that's why they're taking more and more power, because they see people don't care, and to some degree that's by design. But when you have a population that doesn't care, you either have to choose to let them do what they want and let them all just start killing themselves, or take control.
It's just give them money and tell them what to do.
It's the rat race. There's like this old experiment I remember reading about where they created this rat utopia, and they had this whole like huge rat chamber with like a whole colony of rats, and they got food whenever they wanted, they could relax however much they wanted, play however much they wanted. And then over time, the rats became like extremely lazy, they stopped breeding, and then they started killing each other by the end of the experiment. So they had to like shut down the experiment. And then you see that with people today. People need something to do. They need purpose. They need hope. If they think things are just taken care of, there's no point in them getting up and doing anything, they're gonna be miserable.
Your house slowly becomes a cage.
Your house slowly becomes a cage. Yeah, literally, we're all slaves. Just because we can't see the cages doesn't mean we're not slaves to these systems.
Metaphors, people.
Metaphors, analogies. Get on them. But no, it's real. They control our lives. They control what we see, how we feel, what we think. You know, and it's getting more and more.
It really has drastically changed, especially like this year.
Mhm.
Like just the whole pandemic in a whole year. Like
It's changed everything.
It has.
Nothing is going to be the same again. We're not going back to the way things were. And to be fair, I don't think we should. The way things were getting pretty stale, in my opinion. It was getting pretty bleak. It wasn't. I mean, things were nice and comfortable, but people need more than that. And that's what I think we have an opportunity for now. Is kind of like a chance to wake up that next generation to the machine.
Renaissance. We need the new Renaissance.
We do. We really do. Because we got some crazy stuff that's going to be happening in our lifetime. And if the mind state overall, the collective consciousness isn't prepared for it.
Get ready, y'all.
We are living in an era where we are hyper connected, and it's the first time that we have ever been this connected ever in human existence.
To some degree, I think that's what gives us the biggest chance of actually beating the system. That's what they're most scared about. That's why they're being so blatant as they are right now.
Yeah.
Because they know they're on their death throes. Like, look, CNN and Fox News, their views are way down. As soon as Trump got out of office, boom, their views started plummeting.
The stock market's being controlled by the people too.
Well, it's being
They don't have
they're
their
trying.
meme cow.
They're meme. What'd you call it?
A meme cow.
The meme cow. for real though, man. No, there's been a lot of things going on. People are waking up. We just got to stop the partisan nonsense. Get out of the social conflict, because the social war, it's entertainment. It's not real. I mean, to some degree it is in terms of like language and whatnot.
Language and race, for sure. Like that is a real problem. But
no, this race
it shouldn't
tension
even
stuff
be a
is
problem.
it's manipulated. It's the powers that be creating a duality so people have an other to look at. Oh, they're not the same as me. It's like, no,
Everyone's the same.
generally we're all the same, you know, and that goes for both sides. It's like, just come to the table. Most people you talk to, you find you have more in common with them than you really think.
For real.
Especially compared to these people at the top of these corporations and politicians and
You know,
whatnot.
a lot of people are scared right now, and there's a lot of rationalization and radicalism. My bad.
A lot of
There is.
people are looking at like. It's just the fact that some people in life get more opportunities than others, and it's like it's a shitty fact, but
You know, privilege
it's-
exists.
yeah, but
It's not race dependent though.
No.
You should never look at someone and think because of their race they've had certain privileges. That's not how it works. Maybe in very small controlled areas, but that goes for both parties, and it's not and to think the whole country is built on like one race's supremacy is kind of ridiculous at that point in time. If we were still existing in like the 50s and 60s, it'd be like, okay, yeah, it's blatantly everywhere. We have like separate water fountains and separate like bathrooms, but they're trying to make that a thing again. Like trying to have like these weird diversity quotas towards like, oh, we have colored only meetings. We're gonna separate the people so there's no microaggressions. We don't want anyone to commit cultural appropriation or to offend anybody, and it's getting ridiculous. We need to just chill out. The differences are there, and the culture differences are there, but it's all for fun anyway. Just open your mind a little bit and
Have a conversation.
have a conversation. It's that simple.
it
But
doesn't have to be an argument.
don't let a political party claim you either. Do whatever you want. Vote independent.
Yeah.
No labels.
No labels. That's really the main thing. They're putting everyone in boxes.
Free your
Yeah.
mind.
Are you a socialist? Are you a conservative? Are you a alt-right? What is it? Are you a Nazi? What is it? What is it today? Communist? You know.
Just stop trying to label everything.
Yeah, don't label yourself either. You should be able to go through all sorts of ideas and be able to challenge yourself constantly, because you're not going to be the same person in 20 years that you are now. So you need to be just aware of the things you don't know. Know what you don't know, or something like that.
Straight up.
Straight up. Alright. One last thing I wanted to talk about. This is more or less just something I wanted to shout out for all of you to go look up on your own. Time Magazine dropped a paper the other day, or an article, and it comes right out and talks about the shadow cabal that was operating in the 2020 elections, and they lay it all out, and they have their excuses for it and whatnot. But no, they come right out and they say the corporations work together to maintain democracy and whatnot. I'm not gonna give my own opinions on the thing here. This is just a final shout out for y'all to look it up. Time Magazine.
I got one more shout out. We lost a furry friend. I'd just like to say rest in peace, Walter.
Walter was buried earlier today. He was an amazing cat. Sad to see him go. But I think that's all for tonight, folks. Thanks for watching the Vacation IRL podcast. This has been the 5th episode. I labeled this one the Clown World Special, just because of all the crazy stuff. From now on out, I probably won't be doing so much news-based stuff on this show. We'll be trying to set up a second show for the week time, and now that'll be on the Alt Tech media sites. But this will be continued every Saturday, and we're just gonna keep having fun with it. But anyway, make sure you check us out on all the other sites that we're located on, and